Otari in Georgia is a theist, says that eyewitnesses are reliable. Otari, maybe you want to elaborate on
Hello. Well, I think eyewitnesses can be reliable if there's many of them. And in Bible, we see that there was, I think, 500 or so of eyewitnesses.
No,
and
there
I
wasn't.
think that could be.
There wasn't 500. There
Well,
was one person that wrote about 500. I mean, can you name me one of the 500 people? Can you give me the record? Can you show me what they said on that day? You can't, right?
I think it was Bob.
Apostle.
Bob saw it.
Was it Bob?
Bob.
And regardless, there's something called the miracle of Fatima. Have you ever heard of it?
I actually wanted to mention this as well.
Yeah, 30,000 people saw something in the sky that was more than likely a parhelion, right, or some type of something. Yeah, so 30,000 people were eyewitnesses to the sun moving in the sky, and they were all wrong, right? We can be very confident that they were wrong in terms of the detrimental effects that would have been subsequent from the sun moving, right? So
yes, so
I don't really agree that amount of eyewitnesses is gonna really do. I mean, like in some cases I might agree, but like I can give you an example of 30,000 people that were just wrong.
And I'll jump in and say, Otari, have you ever spoken to those eyewitnesses? Do you have a chance to question them and ask them where they were when they saw it, or how they felt, and had they what they'd eaten or drank, or any of those sorts of things? Because when we do that in court, I agree with you that if I put up 100 witnesses that all point to a suspect and say, I saw that person shoot the other guy, and those people are exposed to cross-examination and survive, that the jury is convinced that they're telling the truth, 100 witnesses is better in human experience than one witness. It's more reliable. I'm more willing to accept the claim that he done it, right? But that's only after they've survived cross-examination. If you aren't subject to cross-examination, you can say anything you want, and now you're just left with a claim. So all we have is whisper down the lane of the Gospels say that some people saw a thing and interpreted it this way. I can't cross-examine the Gospel writer because we don't know who that was. I can't cross-examine the people who claimed to have seen it. I can't even tell whether or not those people actually ever even existed. So while I agree with your underlying claim that more witnesses tends to make me more comfortable accepting a claim, there's a whole bunch of caveats. The big one is, have they been cross-examined? Have they been questioned? Has there been scientific examination of their evidence? Do you have any of that with the Bible? Do you have any cross-examination whatsoever?
No, but they had no ulterior motive for their supposed lie. Well, as you can limit.
Do you need one? Do you need an ulterior motive to be mistaken?
Excuse me. They all, apostles, for example, they all died, as far as I know, as well as other early Christians. Why would they lie about something like that when they knew they would be persecuted?
Okay, so we're moving on to a different argument here. You're basically saying you're using the die for a lie argument. Why would they die for a lie? So my first question to you was, do you need to be, can people be mistaken, is my first question. Can people make mistakes when they're looking at a thing? Can they make a mistake in understanding what's going on? That's just a simple question, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, so if we could agree that people can be mistaken, then your argument seems to be that even if a person could be mistaken, they wouldn't die for that misunderstanding. And my argument there is absolutely they would. We see it all the time. We see people getting executed in our judicial system who knew they were going to do that because they were convinced, let's say, for example, mothers who kill their children before they are old enough in their religion to reach the age of consequence, where if they sin, they would go to hell. It's in their eyes the most loving thing they do. They kill their kids before they could be sent to hell. They die because they think that they're right. They've murdered their kids. Do you think that they're right there, or do you think they're mistaken?
I didn't get the question.
Okay, so we have mothers who kill their children so those children will go to heaven. First of all, do you think that they're right? I guess that's my first question. I didn't even establish the the premise. Do you agree with that? Is that something that they should do?
No.
Okay, so they're making a mistake, but they know that they are going to die for killing their kids. So they are mistaken, yet they die for that. So we have examples today of people dying for a lie, so to mistake. But I disagree. It's not a lie. They truly believe that it's true. You look at people who are insane, people who are having mental illness, people who have ingested drugs. They will all believe something and might gladly die for it because they believe it so strongly. So even if we grant that you have somebody who believed this and died for it, although I don't think the people who were witnesses to the resurrection were the ones we were talking about. I think you're talking about the apostles. Yeah. We still have modern day examples alive today of people dying for a misunderstanding. So I think that, I don't know, J. Mike, if you have anything to jump onto that, but that sort of destroys that sort of premise.
No, I mean, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, you could think of homeopathic remedies. People really believe that, and they were willing to risk that, right? The point is that because X believes, hold on, just because that X believes Y, right? Just because some person believes some proposition and they really think it's true and they're willing to die for that, adds no epistemic justification. It adds nothing, right? The fact that you are willing to die for a proposition says fuck all about whether or not the proposition is true or false. Like it's like an appeal to emotion, right? The fact that I have an emotional view, like that I have some attachment to the proposition and I'm willing to die, all that tells you is that I have a psychological state such that I really believe it to be true and I'm willing to go anywhere and everywhere for this belief. There's still an open question on whether or not that's true. But secondly, I find this interesting because, like, for example, do you think like Peter was killed? Do you think that Peter was hung upside down? Do you think that's how he was crucified?
I don't know if that's what Christians are claiming, but if that's the case, then yes.
Yeah, but this is I did this yesterday on a TikTok live with somebody. I don't think Christians realize they're using non-canonical text for these accounts, right? You don't find them in the text. They're non-canonical. And so it's weird that this is something that Christians don't even seemingly go check. So set that to the side because it's not even important, right? It's really not important. Do you understand crosses? Well, let me give you a chance to speak. Do you understand Cross and I's position that just because Bob believes in X, that it's raining or whatever, and he's really willing to die for it, that doesn't add any weight to whether or not the claim is true? We still have the exact same amount of investigation that we still have to do. Do you agree?
Sure, if it's one person. And besides, you have no evidence that they were crazy or something.
Crazy? I'm willing to die that God doesn't exist. I'm willing to die for that belief. Does that mean that God doesn't exist?
No.
Yeah. So replace the content with Jesus or God. The form of the argument is the exact same. What I mean is the same structure is there. All we're doing is taking out some content, right, and replacing it. So if I say J. Mike is willing to die for atheism or for naturalism, that does nothing. That says nothing on whether or not we've raised the probability that naturalism is true. We've just raised the probability that there's someone who's likely to die for a belief. That's it. I don't see anything special about primates dying for the beliefs that they have. I don't see why that indicates metaphysical truth.
I mean, you look at the Jonestown Kool-Aid suicides. 900 people died for that religion, for that cult. 900 people died back in the 70s in Jonestown down in South America because they followed a religious leader that believed was telling the truth, and they fed I don't know if it was cyanide or what it was, but Kool-Aid laced with a poison to their children and then themselves. And 900 people killed themselves believing this. Look at Heaven's Gate cult, where, I don't know, 30, a dozen, 24 people killed themselves when the Hale-Bopp comet came across the skies because they thought it was a sign that they were going to be transported up onto the comet and go away with the aliens or some supernatural force. People die all the time because they are wrong. That doesn't make them right. And if we're going on numbers, if we're going on number of eyewitnesses, 900 people died in Jonestown compared to your 500 or whatever. So I don't think numbers matter either. People die all the time because they are mistaken for a variety of reasons.
Use drugs and they isolate their victims so that they don't get help, right?
I'm sorry?
Those cults, they isolate their victims so they don't get help. And they drug them, right?
The cults, there's a whole discussion we have on cults on how they can form sort of emotional mind control over people. But the answer was there was 900 of them that were followers. They could have easily overpowered any sort of force that was being used against them, and they did not. They willingly, at that point, took the poison because they were wrong. How they came to be wrong, you can talk about, but they were wrong. Some of them may have had mental health issues, and some of them may have been quote unquote brainwashed. Some of them may have been coerced, but the 900 people killed themselves on one day because they believed their religious leader.
It's not comparable comparison because it's not just in numbers anymore. You are adding manipulation into the mix.
You started out saying that eyewitness testimony can be reliable or depended upon because of numbers. You just started the call saying there were 500 people, and we can dispute that number, that witnessed the resurrection. Therefore, numbers matter. But when I bring up numbers in this context, you say they don't matter.
Because it's false comparison. Those cults are, as I said, and as far as I know, they are manipulated. And you have no evidence that they were manipulated as well, unless you do. And then it would be sensible comparison.
I don't think I'm following you there. But J-Mark, are you picking up on that?
I don't. I might be. I mean, I don't get why you, like, if you have the 500, you don't have the record form. I mean, you might as well have just Dr. Evil, like, 1 million witnesses, right? Like, I mean, you might as well beef up the number. And it's weird to me because, like, imagine that, like, you had a bunch of eyewitnesses. I mean, Cross, I'm thinking this in my head right now. So maybe since this is part of your domain, I might be making a mistake here. But I'm thinking in my head, like, imagine I had some eyewitnesses for some belief, and then there's other people that were eyewitnesses, but they think the opposite, right? They think that the opposite thing occurred. And if you want to go by the numbers, it's strange because say that me and Cross we're on the side where we're like that this thing didn't occur, right? So we're fighting against the other eyewitnesses. And if it comes down to numbers for reliability, then all me and all me and Cross have to go do is go start killing every person with the eyewitness view, and until the point where our numbers are higher than theirs. And then now all of a sudden it's more likely that we're true because of the numbers of eyewitnesses that we have for our claim, right? But that seems weird. Do you really think that if I went around, I keep wanting to say unalive because of TikTok and how they ban people if you say kill. But if we went around killing people, all the people that believed X and we believe not X, does that all of a sudden make it more likely to be true once our numbers go above their numbers, right? Like that doesn't, to me, that seems like just an ad populum fallacy. Right? Like, why would it matter about the number of people? That it's like I can grant that it will give me, in some cases, like say you got a dog, right? And you have a bunch of eyewitnesses. Yeah, Cross got a dog. If 1,000 people came up to me and said Cross got a flying puppy that's breathes out fire and poops out Hershey Kisses or something like that, if that was the claim, I don't care if 1,000 people told me that. My skepticism is still gonna be there. It's not like the 1,001 person is gonna make me believe that Cross really got this dog. I'm gonna think it's more likely that 1,000 people got together and they're trying to fuck with me, right? And so, I mean, I think that this is context sensitive in terms of the claim. Your claim is being talking about like metaphysical truths, or that Jesus is God, and that people are willing to die for this metaphysical truth. Yeah, I mean, that's just a different claim than something like I got a dog, right? I'm gonna need investigative work. I'm not gonna need like, oh, a bunch of people believe it. Yeah, a bunch of people believe that the sun moved from the sky, and they were wrong. People are dumb. Like, I mean, is Otari, before we go, is what we're saying like completely crazy? Just like we're totally like, we're just out of our mind on our objection here, or do you think that our objection makes sense to you?
Have we lost Otari?
I hope not. I'd like an answer.
I hope not either. I think he was.
Well, I think we did lose Otari. It's okay. That's something I could have picked up on. I thought I heard a click on there, but I just wasn't gonna assume it.